Begin today the Gemara at the bottom of Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara here is discussing the condition in the Kesubos that we take the money from the father's possessions, his estate or his karka, and we feed the daughters. The question is, the Gemara has a bunch of different questions when we apply this condition, this obligation of the Kesubos. The Gemara before brought a siman, different Amiroim that ask questions. The siman before was Shak Zaraf, and now the word Zaraf is three names, Rabbi Lazar. And then we have, we'll see. Okay, so this is the Zion of the Zaraf, Rabbi Lazar. By Rabbi Lazar asks the following question. Bas Shniya, the daughter of a marriage where this was a forbidden marriage, midrabanan. Shniya means secondary arayas. It's not asam in hatayre, but it's asam midrabanan. The kedushin takes effect, it's a marriage, and there's a ksubah. But actually, as we'll see, you don't collect the ksubah. But the question is, yesh la mezainis or ein la mezainis? Does the daughter get fed? That condition of the Kesubos applies, or she does not get fed. So what's the question? Do I say, even the less lo Kesubos, since Chachamim said in such a case, the husband does not pay a Kesubos because this whole marriage is forbidden. So the halacha of Kesubos does not apply, so less lo mezainis. So too, the condition of the Kesubos to feed does not apply either. Or perhaps we could say, the mother that did something which is forbidden to marry this man, and the man did an Isser as well. So Kansua Rabbanan. So over here, there's a knas for her that she does not get the Kesubos. But but the daughter, what did she do wrong? She didn't do any Isser. So like Kansua Rabbanan, the Chachamim did not give her a knas, and therefore she does get the mezainis. And so the Meiri over here says, if anything, Adarabba, if you're going to say that the daughter doesn't get a knas, that doesn't get this mezainis, so the father that did it is sort of gaining, because he now his possessions they do not have to pay out for this daughter her mezainis. He also did an isser over here, so there's no reason to take away the mezainis from this daughter. Another shaila, this is the Boy Rove, the Reish from Zaraf. Boy Zaraf asks the question, Bas Arusa, the daughter of an Arusa. So this is also something which is forbidden. A person that went and had a relationship with his wife, which is still an Arusa, meaning she's still living with her parents. Again, as we learned so many times, that there's two stages of marriage, Edison and Isuin. So she's still living by her in-laws, and he went and had a relation with his wife, and there's a daughter, and now he passes away. So the question is, yesh la mezainis or ein la mezainis? Does the daughter get mezainis or not? What's the question? Do I say, even the Isla Kesubos over here, the Chachamim that instituted Kesubos, it really starts from the time of Edison. When a person passes away after Edison, the wife gets a Kesubos. So Isla, so she should get mezainis as well. The condition of mezainis should apply. Or I could say, since Chachamim did not institute that you have to write the Kesubos. That's what the Gemara here means, as Rashi says. You don't have to actually write the Kesubos until the time of Nisuin. So therefore, you don't get the mezainis either, because they did not write a Kesubos yet. Even though, before we said, whether you write a Kesubos or not, all conditions of the Kesubos apply automatically. But over here, the time that Chachamim instituted to write the Kesubos is at the time of Nisuin. So therefore, the conditions of the Kesubos only take effect then. So less loss, so she does not get any mezainis. Teiku, this remains unresolved. The final question on this subject from the Fei, from the Siman Zaraf before, Rav Papa asks, Boy Rav Papa Bas Anusa, the daughter of an Anusa. So this goes back to what we learned earlier in the Gemara, a person that was Mazana, he was Ma'anas, a girl, and now the Torah says that he must get married to her. So Anusa, he was Ma'anas, against her will he had a relation with her, and now the Torah says he must get married to her. So the question is, after he passes away, Yesh la mezainis, the daughter gets fed or ein la mezainis, or she does not get fed. So the Gemara explains the basis of the question. According to the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda that we learned before, there is no question. Why? He says that this wife gets a ksubah, a mana, just like any wife that you marry that's already a bu'ula from before, so she also gets a mana. So therefore, there's no reason why the condition of the ksubah, that the daughter should get fed, should not apply. According to whom are we asking the question? According to the Rabbanan's opinion. The Rabbanan said, Yatsa kesef knasa b'ksubasa. This man had to pay a penalty of 100 kesef, 100 coins, for what he had done to her. And that payment of 100 kesef is instead of the ksubah. So there's no additional obligation for him to pay ksubah. So according to the Rabbanan, there's the question regarding the mezainis. Even the less la ksubah, less la mezainis. Do I say since just like he does not pay the ksubah for her, so he doesn't have the condition of the ksubah to feed the daughters does not apply either. Or I can say ksubah time in my. What's usually the reason why we obligate a husband that he would have to pay ksubah if he divorces his wife? So it shouldn't be something light in his eyes to divorce his wife. He knows he would have to pay. And over here, this man, the Torah says, he's not allowed to divorce his wife. It's only if she wants to leave, but he cannot divorce his wife. So therefore, there's no reason to have a ksubah. But this is only a reason why there should not be the payment of the ksubah itself. But the condition of the ksubah, which is the fact that the daughter will get fed, mezainis, that maybe there still is. Teiku, this also remains unresolved. Going back to what it said in the Mishnah, Ate Yasva bebeisi v'chulu. So it said that the condition of the ksubah is also regarding the almana, that the almana could live in the home of the husband, and the Mishnah there said that she gets fed. The exact lashon of the Mishnah was Ate Yasva bebeisi v'mizana minichasi koyme megal manusech. He'll get fed from my possessions all the time that you're an almana, and then the Mishnah adds again a second time bebeisi, in my home. So the question is, why does it say this again, bebeisi? So Tana Rav Yosef explains. We're clarifying in the text of the Kesubos, the Beisi, that the husband is obligating to feed his almana when she's in the home, the loy bebiksi, but not if they're living in a hut. Meaning, if they're living in a regular home and there's place for everybody to live there comfortably, the almana could live there, the yisayim could live there, so then she gets fed over there. But if they're living in a small hut and there's no place for the almana to live there together with them, so then that's what biksit. Rashi says the word biksit means bei aksa, a place that's like too narrow, too small. So the Yisayimim can tell her, you have to go find yourself another place to live. There's no place for you to live there. And yeah, they send her out. So that's why it says bebeisi. But the Gemara actually says, even though if it's a small hut and there's no place for her to live there, they do not have to give her the shelter to live in that home. They can tell her to go live somewhere else, but the mezainis, this that they have to feed her, still applies. Mar Baravashi disagrees. He says, if she's not living there in their home together with them, where the husband lived in that home, so then even mezainis, the food, they will not have to give her either. The Gemara says right away, we don't paskin like Mar Baravashi. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. The Gemara will bring here other details exactly up until which point do they have to feed the almana. Right? So it said, Kol yemei meger almanusach, as long as you're living here as an almana. So what does that mean? Is it only when she gets married to someone else that she's not an almana anymore? So the Gemara will explain even before she gets married to someone else. So Amar Shmuel said, Tov u'alehi nase. If somebody was asking her to get married, to get remarried to him, to go and marry someone else, and she agreed. The very fact that she agreed to get married to someone else, so now she's not considered to be anymore the almana of this husband. She already agreed to get married to someone else. Says the Gemara, what does this mean? But what's if someone is asking her to get married and she did not agree to get married to him? Are you going to say yeshla mezainis? She still will be fed from her husband's estate. Why is this? As Rashi explains, the Gemara's question is the very fact that somebody asked her to get married, and the only reason she didn't agree to get married to this other person is not because she still feels herself as the almana of her deceased husband, and for his honor, she's not ready to get married to anyone else. She didn't want to get married to this person because she felt like he's not right for her. But really, she's already open to getting married to someone else. If she's open to getting married to someone else, she should not anymore consider to be the almana of this deceased husband. So why should she still get mezainis? So Amar Rav Anan said, "Ledidim mefarshli minei demar Shmuel." So Shmuel explained to me, Amra machmas pleini baili, if she refuses to get married to someone else, and she says the reason is because I'm still connected to my husband that passed away. So then yesh la mezainis. She'll still get fed from her husband's properties. But if she says she's open to get married, but this particular person that was offered to her, she does not get married to him, she says he's not right, the right shidduch for me, so then ein la mezainis. We don't consider her to be anymore an almana of this man, and she will not get fed. Amar Rav Chisda says another scenario where she will not get mezainis anymore, zinsa. If she was mezana, she had a relation with someone. Ein la mezainis, so she doesn't get mezainis either. Rav Yosef says, kichla upirchasa. We see that she's adorning herself, she's putting up makeup, she's trying to make herself attractive for a shidduch. So she's already finished with this husband, she wants to get married to someone else. Ein la mezainis, she doesn't get fed. So Gemara explains, Mandama Zinsa, the opinion that says that if she was mizana with someone, that she does not get mezainis koshken kichlo pirchasa. So then, most definitely, if we see she's mamish preparing herself to get married to someone else, for sure she should not get fed anymore from her husband's the dead husband's properties. Mandama kichlo pirchasa, the one that says only if we see that she's preparing herself to get married to someone else, avol zinsa isla. But if she had a relation with someone, then she would still get mezainis. Because lav dafka she interested in getting married to anyone else. She went and had a relation with someone else. So the Gemara explains, my time, and what's the reason? Yetzer ansa. She had a Yetzer hara, and this forced her to do what she did. But really, she's not yet interested in getting married to anyone else. We don't see her adorning herself and making herself attractive for anyone else. But the Gemara concludes now, after all these things we just said, V'les hilchase k'chol hanishmaitase. We don't paskin like all of these halachas that we just said, in all of these situations where we see that she's ready to get married to someone else, that she loses her mezainis at that point. Ella rather, ki hadam Rav Yehuda Shmuel. We passing like what Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, that when does she lose her mezainis? Hatoivas ksubasa bebezdin. If she comes and she's demanding in bezdin that she should get paid her ksube, then ein lo mezainis. Then she does not get any mezainis. Only when she's coming to demand her ksube. When she demands her ksube, she does not get fed anymore. But Vatanya, we learned in Abraisa, machra ksubasa, if a woman, an almana, goes and sells her ksube, umishkana ksubasa, or she uses the value of whatever her ksube would be as a mashkin, as a collateral for a loan that she owes. Or if she has someone that she borrowed money from, and she tells this person that these properties that I'm going to collect my ksuba from will be an apaitiki. The word apaitiki means you're going to come and collect from this field right over here. Apaitiki is a combination of three words. Poi, tehei, koi. This is the place where you can come and collect your loan from. Right, so she's using already her ksubeh for someone to come and collect from it. La'achar, for someone else that all she owes money to. Eilam mezainis, then she does not anymore collect mezainis. So what do I see from this braisa? Hani in these scenarios where she sold her ksubeh, she made it a collateral, she's designating it that it should be collected from here, then she doesn't get any more mezainis. Avol tevas light. But it would seem from this braisa, if she was merely demanding that she wants the payment of her ksubeh, then she does not lose her mezainis yet. So the Gemara answers, no, there's a difference here. Hani, these things that the braisa mentions, bein bebezdin, bein shalei bebezdin. Whether this was in a bezdin or not in a bezdin, she loses her mezainis once she already sold her ksubeh and the other details that it said in the braisa. Tevas bebezdin in, shalei bebezdin loy. A almana that comes to collect her ksubeh, if she was serious about it, she was so serious that she came to a bezdin, then I say that she loses her mezainis. But if she just approached the yisayim and said, pay me the ksubeh, not in a bezdin, she will not lose her mezainis. And the Mishnah said,
so once a woman takes a ksubah, she doesn't get any, she has
correct.
To have a loan.
She has to eat, she has to feed herself from her own ksubah money. So it said in the Mishnah, Anshe Yerushalayim, and the Anshe Golol would write into the Ksubeh that up until which point does she get fed from the Ksubeh until she gets remarried. Right? You may mega al manusech bevesi, but the Anshe Yehuda would write into the Ksubeh that you get mezainis until you'll get your Ksubeh money, like we were just saying here. And so that was a tumin hagim of what was written in the Ksubeh. So what's the halacha? Itme Rav Amar halacha Anshe Yehuda. Rav says we paskin like what the people in Yehuda did until she collects a ksubah. Shmuel Amar, but Shmuel said halacha Anshe Golol. We paskin like what the people in Golol did, and that is you may mega al manusech until as long as she's on almana, she didn't get remarried. So the Gemara explains that Bavel v'chol parvedah, Bavel, and all those areas, all those cities or villages in that area of Bavel where Rav was, not Rav. So they paskin, they did, the minig was like Rav. Nerda, v'chol parvedah, Nerda, another section in Bavel where Shmuel was, and all those areas, not Shmuel. So they did like Shmuel. So there was an incident that he bas mechuza the havas nesivil in Nerda. There was a woman that she came from Mechuza, which is the area of Rav in Bavel, and she was married to someone from Nerda. And this story came up over here, that her husband passed away, and now the question was, up until what point does she get fed the mezainis? Asla kamed Rav Nachman, so this woman came to Rav Nachman, Shama lakala the bas mechuzahi. He heard in her voice, or maybe in her accent that she was speaking, that she came from Mechuza, the place where Rav was from. Amar lahu, so therefore he said to them, Bava v'chol parveda, no karav. She comes from the area of Rav, so in that area we do like Rav, and she gets the ksuba like the minig was in Yehuda until she gets the ksuba. Amrulei, so they said to Rav Nachman, but v'holen Nerda nesiva. True, she comes from the place where Rav was, but she got married to her husband, which came from Nerda, where Shmuel was. So he said, if so, Yachin Nerda v'chol parvada nog Shmuel. So then over there we do like Shmuel. We're talking over here about the husband's obligation to pay the ksuba or to pay the mezainis. So it goes according to where the husband came from. So the Gemara says about Heichen Nerda, until where is considered to be the section where they do like Shmuel Nerda. Ad heiche the sagi kabed the nerda, until that area where they would measure with the kind of measurements that was used in nerda. So there was different ways they would measure. They would use nerda, and then the area where Rav was in Bavel. So we know that it's still considered to be nerda when they use the method of the area of nerda. Itma, we learned another machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Almana, when it comes to an almana, Rav Amas or Rav says shamin mashallah. We evaluate the when it comes to collector ksuba, right? So we have to also evaluate the clothing that she's wearing. That itself has to be evaluated as part of her payment for the ksuba. Shmuel says, Ein shamim mashallah. Now the clothing that she has, that her husband gave her separately as a gift, it's hers to keep, and whatever ksuba she gets paid is a separate thing from this clothing that she's wearing. Amar Rav Chiya bar Avin said, V'chilufa belakit. When it comes to a locket, which is a worker that you hire, and he's living by the person that he's working for, so also the owner gives him clothing to wear. So over there's also the same machlokes. When you have to later come and pay him, do you deduct from the payment the clothing that you gave him, or you don't deduct that from the payment? The clothing that you gave him is a separate thing. So over here there was a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel about by the worker as well, but over here the opinions of Rav and Shmuel were reversed. Rav Kahana masni, but Rav Kahana taught v'chein belokit. The same exact argument that there was regarding the almana is also regarding a worker, whether the clothing that he was granted are part of the payment or not. Rav Kahana gave a simon. He said yasma v'armalta, both when it comes to a yasma. Over here yasma means, Rashi says, this worker. And almalta, when it comes to an almana, we tell them shlach upuk. Take off your clothing and go out. Meaning that the clothing is also part of the payment of the ksuba or of the payment for the worker. Rav Nachman said, although we learned in a Mishnah like Shmuel's opinion, that the clothing is separate. The clothing is a gift for the wife and therefore it's not part of the ksuba. But nevertheless, we still paskin like Rav that we do evaluate the clothing as part of the payment of the ksuba. Where is this Mishnah? So there's a Mishnah that says as follows: a person that was makdish, he said that his possessions should be hektish. Or a person that says, my value I give to hektish. There's the set values that you have to give depending on your age. So, but ein loy, so now when the gabbai of hektish comes to collect from this person's properties or possessions, he cannot collect loy biksus ishtay, not the clothing his wife is wearing, v'loy biksus banov, not the clothing that his children are wearing, v'loy b'tzeva shetzava l'shman, or any clothing that he prepared, that he dyed, in other words, that he prepared for his wife and children, you cannot collect from them. V'loy b'sandalim chadashim, and not new shoes shalakach l'shman, that he acquired for their sake. So what do we see from here? That when it comes to the clothing that he gave his wife, it's a gift for her, it belongs to the wife, and therefore, we should understand from this that when it comes later to collecting the payment of the ksuba, the clothing is not part of that payment. The clothing is already a gift that he gave before to his wife. So therefore, it's a separate thing, like Shmuel. So we see in the Mishnah like his opinion. So Rav Nachman, so Rav asks Rav Nachman, so if we have a Mishnah that says like Shmuel, so why did you say that we still paskin like Rav? So he answered him and said, seemingly, you can read the Mishnah quickly and it would seem like Shmuel. This Lashon L'chayre that we always use so commonly is actually in the Gemara itself. This is one of the places in Shas where it says this Lashon L'chayre. I'm not even sure if it says it anywhere else in Gemara. It's not a very usual expression the Gemara uses. And the word L'chayre, so they bring over here on the side, it means, it comes from the term Ke'er, like light, which means when a person like opens his eyes and at first glance he sees light. That's what the term l'chayre means, first glance. That's how people always translate it. But there's actually another pshat that Rashi brings, and there's a Rashi in the Shittim Ukebetzes. It says a very interesting pshat. It says that really the source of the word l'chayre, it's written here with an aleph, but the word l'chayre in its sources should be with an ayin, and it's the source of the word is ki'ur. Ki'ur means a person that's ugly, meaning a person that doesn't think well. He's learning in an ugly manner, so to speak. He doesn't think clearly about what he's learning. That's the source of the word l'chayre. The Gemara says that it seems like this Mishnah is like Shmuel's opinion. But Kima'ayin is ba, when you'll analyze what it says it deeper, you'll see the halacha could still be like Rav, and this Mishnah is no contradiction to Rav's opinion. Why? My time, what's the reason? Because even according to Rav, it's true that he gave his wife a gift, his clothing. But when he's giving her this gift, it's with the condition that she's standing in front of him, meaning while he's alive. So then he said, if you're my wife now when I'm alive, it's yours to keep. It's a gift for you. But then that later when she passes away, that she should take it with her and to go on her for herself. For that he didn't give it to her. So let's say, just as an example, like a matana manas lahachsa. Right now it is hers. So therefore, when the Gabbai of Hektish comes to collect any of the possessions from this person that he was Makdish, so at this point the clothing of the wife is not his to be collected. But later, after he passes away, here Rav says, now it's not hers anymore. So therefore, the Kesubos, you have to evaluate their value for the payment of the Kesubos. Zok the Gemara calls to the Bar al Yashiv, the daughter-in-law of the house of Bar al Yashiv. So she married one of the children of al Yashiv. Have a Ketavik Subasa Miyasmi. So the husband passed away, and she was demanding the Kesubos payment from the Yisayimim. Have a Kamam Tulul Beidina. So she brought them to Bezdin for Din Torah to collect the Kesubos. Amri, the Yisayimim said, Zilalon Milsa. It's embarrassing for us the way she's dressed. She comes to the Bezdin. We don't want to talk to her in this way. The Zilalon Milsa the Tizli Hachi. It's embarrassing for us to be that the way she's dressed in such an embarrassing way. Azla, she went. Levishtinu vachsitinu lekula mana. She went and got herself adorned and dressed up with all of the beautiful clothing that her husband gave her. So Asala Kamei the Ravina. So they came for the entire in front of Ravina. And what happened? Amalo hilchasukavasei the Rav. So Ravina said that we're going to paskin like Rav. The Amar Rav said, Almana shaman mashallah. When it comes to the payment of the Kesubos for an Almana, we have to also evaluate all the clothing that she's wearing. Basically, the assignment wanted her to put on all these clothing in the bezin, so Ravina should see the clothing that she's wearing, so that it should be deducted from the Kesubos. Hahu, there was an individual. Huh?
What's the difference? Because they had the clothing in the house.
Okay, so why they didn't want there should be any sfekas later. There should see clearly what's going on here. Hahu, there was an individual before he passed away. He tells his sons, Nedunya lebras. Make sure you give a nedunya, dowry, for the daughter when she has to get married. Zal nedunya. Then what happened? He said a certain amount of what should be given for the daughter. He showed. He says, give this amount of jewelry, give this amount of clothing. But then the price of that jewelry and clothing went down. So now the question is, do they give according to the cheaper price that it is now? Or zal nedunya? So the price went down. Amar Ravidi Baravin. So Ravidi Baravin says, Dafnun Dalar Amar Aleph. Porna leyasmi. The gain of this is for the assignment. They'll give those jewelry and clothing that the father showed them to give, even though they're going to spend less money on it. Whatever extra they have, they are going to gain from this. Similar thing the Gemara says, Auda Amalahu, the person before he passed away, so he told his children that they should give the dowry for the daughter, Arba Meya Zuzi Min Chamra Lebras. Take the value of the 400 zuz from this wine that's here for the daughter. What happened later? After he passed away, the value of this wine went up. So now the question is, do they have to give all of the 400 zuz, in other words, all the wine? Or maybe now if the value went up, they can give less, according to the value that it was when the father was speaking. The Yisayimim gain by this, and they're not going to have to give all the wine. They give only according to the value that it was when he passed away. So the Gemara Kereve the Rabbi Yechanan, the relatives of Rabbi Yechanan. Havalu ita sabe. So their father had a wife. It wasn't their mother, but his father had a wife that they saw in his lifetime. The father was still alive. They have a kamafsida mezayni, that she eats a lot. She eats very expensive food. So they got very concerned about this. What's going to be when our father passes away, and we're going to have to feed his wife, and she's going to spend so much money for food. So Asla Kamei Rabbi Yechanan, they came to Rabbi Yechanan for advice. Amalahu, Rabbi Yechanan says to them, Izilu v'amru leila avuchain, go and tell your father, the niyachad la ara l'mezayna, that the father, before he passes away, let him designate one property, and that she's going to collect her mezainis from that property. So like this, you're gonna know this is what she's collecting from, and you're not gonna be obligated forever to give her all the expensive food that she eats. Okay, so now he passes away. What happened? So now they come to Rish Lakish and they ask him about this situation here. So could we now do what we just arranged here? The father said that he's only giving her from this property, and we don't have to give her anything else. So Rish Lakish said, Amaluhu. Rish Lakish said, no, this doesn't help. Kol shekain sheribul amazainis. If the father went and designated a certain property, what the father was doing is he wasn't nullifying your obligation to feed her mezainis. He was adding to your obligation. What the father was doing is, if you're not going to have enough and you're not going to feed her properly, you're going to give her less than what she thinks she deserves, she'll in addition be able to go and collect from that properties as well. But she can still take from you whatever she wants. Amrulei. So he said to Rish Lakish, but Rabbi Yechanan didn't say this. Rabbi Yechanan gave us the advice that when we say that the father is designating this property, so then she can take mezainis only from that property, not from us anymore. Amaluhu. So Rish Lakish did not agree to Rabbi Yechanan's opinion. So he says to them, Zilu Havula, go and give her mezainis. She doesn't have to collect only from the property. You have to go and give her. V'ilai, and if you're not going to do so, Mafkina l'chu Rabbi Yechanan mi'onaychu. I'm going to take the opinion of Rabbi Yechanan out of your ears, which means that I'm going to put you in a chayrim if you're not listening to the psaktin that I'm telling you. So also the Rabbi Yechanan, they ran back to Rabbi Yechanan and told him what's going on over here. Amaluhu. So Rabbi Yechanan said, I can't help you. Ma esa, what should I do? Shekenegdi cholak alai, the one that's against me, or the Rabbi Rish Lakish, he was the bar plukta, he always argued with Rabbi Yechanan, he disagrees with me. So he has a different opinion about this. So Rabbi Vo said about this halacha here, Lididi, Mefarshili, Minei, that Rabbi Yechanan, it was explained to me from Rabbi Yechanan himself that it actually depends, the language that the father said when he dedicated this property for the mezainis of the wife, for the almana. Omar, and it's only one letter that makes the whole difference. Omar lim mezainis, if he said that I'm designating this property for mezainis, Ribala mezainis. So then he didn't mean to say that she could collect her mezainis exclusively from this property. What he was saying was, you collect mezainis from all of my possessions. If you're not getting enough, here you have this property in addition to collect from. Amar bim mezainis, if he says it with a base, bim means to take the place, bim means instead of. Instead of the mezainis that you can usually collect from all the properties, then katas la mezainis. Then he did establish, then he's saying that you could only get from this property and not from anything else.
It's not fault. They went first to Rabbi Yechanan and
we're not done, I'm continuing.
They should have went to
yeah. Hadron alach naira, this is the conclusion of the fourth Perek of Masechta Kesubos. Mishnah in the next Perek is a continuation. It continues the halachas of the Kesubah and the various different obligations that a husband has to the wife has to the husband, as we'll see in the continuation of the Perek. Zakt Eilige Mishnah, Afal Pisha Amru. Although it was always said, Besula Goive Masayim, the basic amount that a Besula gets paid in the Kesubah is 200 zuz. Valmana mana, and Almana takes 1 mana. But Imratza Lahaisif, Afilim Meya Mana Yosef. If the husband wants to add more to the Kesubah, this is what's usually called Taisvis Kesubah, even 100 mana you can add. This Armalain is Gasha, now the wife became an almana or she was divorced. Beimana Edison, whether after Edison, the first stage of marriage, Beimana soon or after the full marriage. Goives Hakal, she collects everything, meaning not only the basic subah, she also collects any additions that the husband added. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah disagrees. If she got divorced or widowed from the time of full marriage, then she collects everything. But only after the first stage of marriage, so then she only gets her basic ksubah. But not any additions that the husband wanted to give. Why not? When a husband promises additions to the ksubah, that's if he's going to end up actually marrying her fully. He's going to live with her. So then he wants to give her all these additional things. But before that, he doesn't intend to give this. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he wants kaisav lebesula shtashal masayim, he could write to his wife a ksubah that has the amount for a psula, 200. But then, vihi kaiseves, she can go and write back to her husband his kabalti mimcha mana, that I forgo on half, and it's as if I already received 100. So now I'll only have to give her a ksubah of 100. Well, almana mana, or a ksubah for the almana, you write her that you're giving her the amount that you have to give in a mana. And v'ikei seves is kabalti mimcha chamishin. And then she writes, I got already half, I got already 50, and therefore he'll only have to give a half a ksubah. Chamishim zuz. Again? No, at the time when they're making the arrangement of the ksubah. So you write this lechatchila. He writes the ksubah and she writes his kabalti. So now he'll only have to give half. Rab Meir says you can't do this. If you're giving any less to a besula, her amount 200, and an almana the amount of a mana, the whole marriage does not take effect. It's a znus. The Chachamim said that such a marriage is not a marriage. So the Gemara pshita. So when it says in the Mishnah that a husband can add whatever he wants, it's obvious. If a husband wants to give her a gift and add, let him add. Answers the Gemara, no. I would think kitzusa of the Rabbanon. Chachamim did want the ksuba to be a set amount, and the reason would be not to embarrass somebody that doesn't have additionals to give. So if one person gives a taisvus ksuba, another person does not, so it could embarrass a person that doesn't have any additional money to give. Kamash Malan, that's why our Mishnah says that if he wants, he may add to the ksuba, and we're not concerned about this.